Okay, welcome to the 14th common session of SunoikisisDC Digital Classics 2017. Today our guest is Federico Aurora from the University of Oslo, and we have a session about digital mycenology, and Federico will explain what he means about that. And Federico works at the University of Oslo. He leads the project DAMOS, which is a database for mycenology and of Mycenaean text. And already last year, Federico was a guest of Sunoikisis Digital Classics, presenting tools for mycenology, and he also participated in our planning seminars in Leipzig. So Federico, welcome back to SunoikisisDC Digital Classics, and thank you for your contribution. Our audience also has the class outline with the detailed description of the session. You have readings and also a practical exercise. So Federico, welcome. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. So, shall I just start?
Yes, you can start. Sorry, Federico, yes.
No. So now I will share my screen. Yeah, first I'm just going to say I'm going to present, as you might have seen in the outline of the lesson. I'm going to talk about digital mycenology, but also about digital resources and online resources for the other Aegean scripts, which are part of the discipline of mycenology, at least until they will be deciphered and maybe shown to belong to a different language family. Anyway, I will now share my screen and show you the slides. I will first introduce the different Aegean scripts. So please, if there is something that is not clear, just interrupt me, and then I can answer to your questions. Let me see if it works. The screen share, it's always okay. Can you just...
Yes, I can see your power. No, now it's perfect. Yes, we can see your slides. Yes, you can start.
And then I will just, need to show you something.
Okay, now I can see your browser, and yes, I can see.
So you see the first resource I will show you afterward. Yes. Hopefully, will work. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So. We will, in this lesson, talk about digital resources for Mycenaean Greek and for the other Aegean scripts. Here you can see a list of Aegean scripts, and I will briefly introduce them, and then with a bit more attention to Mycenaean Greek. And then I will afterwards review the online and digital resources that we have, both for Mycenaean, which are more, and for the other Aegean scripts. So this is a list. You see they are, let's say, 7. They are the first 3, Cretan hieroglyphic, linear A and linear B. They are attested on Crete, and while Cypro-Minoan and Cypro-syllabic, they are attested on Cyprus. Of course, linear B is also attested in mainland Greece. The last 2, the Paistos Disc and Archalochori Acts, are just 2 short texts, which we think, which are probably scripts, but we'll see afterwards that we cannot be sure that they really are the scripts, and they are both from the island of Crete. So let's start with the first of our Aegean script, Cretan hieroglyphic. Let's say immediately that the name hieroglyphic was given by Arthur Evans, the archaeologist who discovered the Aegean scripts on Crete. because it seemed more somewhat pictographic. It seemed compared with the other scripts, which seemed to him to be a bit more linear. That's why linear A and linear B. But despite the name, the Cretan hieroglyphic is not a hieroglyphic script; is a syllabary. But the discipline has kept the name Cretan hieroglyphic. So this is the oldest script which we can find in Greece and on the island of Crete. It's attested between circa year 2000 and 650 before Christ. Just a remark about all the dates that I will give. They are, of course, they are approximate datings, also because archaeologists are not, they don't agree on the absolute chronology for the Aegean. I will not go into details about this, but because of this, I mean, the fact that there is no consensus in this moment among Aegean archaeologists about absolute chronologies in the Aegean, the dating of everything, of scripts and text, is extra approximative. Anyway, so the Cretan hieroglyphic, you can just take a look at one text, just so you know what we are talking about. This is the script. It's comprised of 350 documents, which then give circa 3,500 signs. As you can see, it's not so much. It's typical. It's been found not in the whole island of Crete, but only in central and northeastern Crete. It's as I mentioned, it's a syllabary. That means that there's different signs for different syllables. That is, syllabaries typically have a sign for a combination of a consonant and a syllable, like ba, and then they have another sign for ka, another sign for da, and so on. I can just say that the Cretan hieroglyphic is not deciphered, and so you might wonder how we can know it's a syllabary. The thing is that 96 signs have been identified, and based on these numbers, I mean, the writing systems which have this amount of numbers, they tend to be syllabaries. Also, we know that other scripts in this family are syllabaries, so the probability that this is a syllabary is very high. And you can see I wrote here syllabary CVV. It means that this is another deduction based on the number of signs. It means that there are signs for combinations of consonants and vowels, CV, that is combination like ka, pa, ba, or ke, be, etc. And for single vowels like a, e, I, o. There's no that means that there's no signs for combination for like closed syllables, like syllables like I don't know, kek, rot, and so on. So the Cretan hieroglyphic is attested on different kind of supports, and we can see again also still without having deciphered it, we can see from the disposition of the signs that it's probably made by syllabograms. Sorry, there is a writing mistake. It should be with two L. There's syllabograms which are grouped in groups of signs, while signs with standalone, they are probably logograms. That means signs standing for one whole word. and then some signs for numerals and fractions. The interesting thing with this script is that it doesn't have any prevailing writing direction. So inscriptions are found which go from left to right or right to left. Even though there's no boustrophedic inscriptions, that is, there's no inscriptions going from left to right and then from right to left. So, we understand from the logograms, that is from the symbols of the commodities registered on this tablet, they're probably administrative documents. And we have no clear descendant of this script. So that is, we will see that some other scripts, that linear A shares some signs with the Cretan hieroglyphic, but it doesn't seem to come from that. So here you can see a list of the syllabograms with some variants. As you can see, there's no transcription because it's, as I said, it's not deciphered. And here you can see one text is an administrative document, and you can see it's inscribed on it's a parallelepiped, and it's inscribed on all sides. Then we continue with our overview, and we come to linear A. Linear A is much better tested. We have 1,500 documents, which then, and that is 8,000 signs. It is mostly from Crete, but we documents have also been found in mainland Greece and in the Levant. It's also a syllabary, as we saw for the Cretan hieroglyph. But the difference is that linear A is consistently written from left to right. Also for linear A, we have quite many different objects, inscribed objects. You can see we have tablets, administrative tablets, then roundels, stone vases, seals, and other various materials. 90% of the, I will come back to why I wrote parchment. What's the content of linear A? We, again, even though a linear A is not deciphered, we, because of the disposition of the text, because of the logograms and of the disposition of the text on the tablet, on the document, we see their administrative documents, circa 90% of them, and then there have been found also votive, probably religious objects, inscriptions on objects. I wrote parchment because of some particular seals which have been found and which keep trace keep the impression, have the impression of the parchment, of what looks like parchment documents having been sealed into the clay. We are sure that the Minoans, the people who wrote linear A, were also using parchment. So they probably had many more documents their archives were much bigger than what we see, because they had a lot of documents on perishable material, on parchment, which unfortunately, because of the climatic of the climate of Greece, which is very different from the one from Upper Egypt, they didn't reach us. So what about the deciphering of linear A? Linear A is probably the script for which the possibilities for decipherment are better, even though the consensus among scholars still is that we have too few documents. But we will see afterwards that there is at least one project trying to decipher linear A with computational methods. Anyway, what has been done so long? With the decipherment, which has based itself on the fact that 65% of the signs we find in linear A are in common with linear B. And since linear B is a cipher, we know it's Greek, we can use these 65 signs to read the correspondent signs in linear A. Of course, we don't have any guarantee that these 65 signs, they were pronounced in the same way, that they stood for the same sound values, but we have some help from this fact. This causes also the fact that conventionally linear A can be transcribed sometimes with linear B values. So you can find, we will see in some of the resources that we will see linear A is transcribed with linear B in it's transcribed with the same convention with which linear B is transcribed into Roman characters. So what is the status of the decipherment? So thanks to the study of thanks to the help from linear B and the study of the document, of the disposition of the text and the logograms and the archaeological context, we are quite confident by saying that we can say something about the morphology and the phonetics of linear A. It seems to include prefixes and suffixes, because we see that there are a group of signs that recur at the beginning or at the end of bigger group of signs. And then it seems from the comparison with the linear B, now I don't go into details, that linear A might only have had 3 vowels, I, A, U. This is obtained by comparing the corresponding signs for the signs for A and the combination of consonants plus A, consonants plus O in linear B, which they seem to be rendered when there are place names, which, for example, place names which recur both in linear A and linear B. They seem to, in linear A, have E and U instead of A and O. So this just to say that we can say something about linear A and its language, even though we don't know, even though we haven't deciphered it. It's not been deciphered yet. This is a list of linear A signs compared with the corresponding linear B signs. And this is the longest linear A tablet. So now we come to linear B, which is at the moment it's the most important script of the Aegean script, because it's deciphered, because because it's also the one for which we have the most abundant documentation. So linear B was used on mainland Greece and on Crete between circa 1450 and 1150 before Christ. We have 5,864 documents. I wrote Damus figure because these are figures taken from the database of Mycenology at Oslo, the database that I'm responsible for here in Oslo, and the newest documents which have been recently found near Sparta in Greece, they are not included because they are not published, and they can be around 100 fragments. So the temporary figures for linear B of the texts that are published and they are in Damos are these almost 6,000 documents. And then in these documents we find, as you can see, almost 35,000 words made of more or less 65,000 signs, if we exclude the 5,300 word dividers, which are very useful in order to distinguish words, but they are otherwise they don't mean too much. Also, linear B is a syllabary, and it also have the same characteristic of linear A and what we think of the Cretan hieroglyphic of being only having signs for CV and V syllables, that is only open syllables. This is actually a problem for ancient Greek, because ancient Greek has a lot of closed syllables. So linear B turns out to be a quite bad system to render the phonetics and the morphology of ancient Greek. This doesn't mean that it didn't work well for the administrations of the palaces, for the people who were reading those tablets, but it's not very easy for us to recognize Greek words behind the linear B words. So there's always there's often uncertainty in the interpretation of words in linear B. We have a linear B has 87 signs, so the same amount of signs more or less as the other script, plus signs for logograms, numerals, and they are again administrative documents. And since linear B is the cipher, we can be sure that they are administrative documents. And what seems a difference from linear A, at least from what we can see from linear A, there's no religious documents, while linear A seems to have had them. Linear B was again is found on, as I said, on Crete and mainland Greece. Is there a okay? I hear some sound, but probably just some. Yes, I didn't mention was deciphered first in 1952 by Michael Ventris. Here you can see some numbers about the distribution of the documents where they have been found. As you see, the biggest deposits are in Knossos, Pylos, and Thebes. You can see here, you see a map of where Mycenaean documents have been found. And this is a complete list of linear B signs with their transcription. Just 2 words about the transcription. The transcription is conventional, because linear B does not distinguish between voiced and voiceless consonants. So there's only a sign for ko. There's no sign for go. So when one reads transliterations, one has to keep this in mind, that that every time one has a TO in the Mycenaean transcription, this could be DO. Sorry, that every time one has a KO in the Mycenaean transcription, this could be also GO in corresponding in ancient Greek. The exception is to this rule is that Mycenaean has a series for the consonant D, even if it's a voiced. So there's signs for da, de, di, do. I'm not going to go into details for this. This was I just mentioned because of the exercise that I put in the lesson. But this list should be enough to do the exercise. We can come back to the exercise at the end of the lesson. here is a little list, short list of some of the Mycenaean logograms, so symbols for commodities. So they symbols for a whole word and not only for a syllabic group. Mycenaean is written mostly on clay tablets, but also, as you have seen from the figures before, we have circa 200 vases with short painted inscriptions. This is a typical, I mean, this is, sorry, typical. I mean, this is a Mycenaean tablet from Pylos. Here we see the conventional transcription. As you see, Roman characters are used to conventionally transcribe the syllabic signs. You might recognize the word for man in Latin here, vir. There's a convention that logograms, that is symbols for commodities, they are not transcribed. They are not transcribed with an English or an Italian or a French translation, but they are transcribed with a short form of their Latin translation. And numerals are translated with our numerals. This is, you can get a grasp of what's behind the conventional transliteration by looking at the phonetic transcription of this tablet. Those which are not transcribed, with those in italics, are the words which we can't interpret, so we can't have a phonetic transcription. But let's focus just on the first line. You see, you can read, this is the Greek version, Eretai pleurona de Iontes. I didn't put accent because we can't be sure about how the accent was in Mycenaean. So rowers going to Pleuron, which was a village or something in the kingdom of Pylos. So you can see that iote stands, what we transcribe for iote stands for iontes. This tells us that this gives me the possibility to show you the fact that in Mycenaean there's no final consonants written, even though we are sure because of linguistic reasons that they were in the language. There's no diphthongs, more or less, at least not final diphthongs. I mean, there's some exception, but these are the general rules. So eretai is written something like ereta. And you can see finally that there's only one symbol in the syllabary for R and L, for R and L syllabic groups. But we know that they had both the consonant R and the consonant L. So when one works with Mycenaean, one has to know all this, take all this into consideration. Okay, so this was an example. Let's quickly finish our overview of the Aegean scripts, which we have left to go through. Then we can see what do we have at the moment for online and digital resources of Mycenaean and Aegean scripts in general. So now we've come to Cypro-Minoan scripts. So we move now to Cyprus, and Cypro-Minoan script. I wrote scripts because actually, in fact, even though they belong to the same kind of script, we find 4 different variants, which probably have to be considered 4 different scripts of Cypro-Minoan. This is a document in Cypro-Minoan. That's how it looks like. There's no standard font. There's no standard. We haven't yet. People haven't. I mean, researchers haven't yet. How do you say? Elaborated a standard form of the syllabary which can be used for these kind of purposes, like the one for Mycenaean or for Linear A, because the script is at the moment, this script is at the moment too badly understood for this. So some data about the Cypro-Minoan script. First, about the name. Sorry, they are called Cypro-Minoan simply because of they are a syllabic script from Cyprus, which is belongs to the 2nd millennium before Christ, and reminds somewhat of the scripts on Crete. So therefore, the Evans call them Cypro-Minoan, but there's no. The name doesn't mean any, doesn't imply any real connection with the Minoans on Crete, even though, as you nothing. And so the Cypro-Minoan scripts were used on Cyprus between 1600 and 1950 before Common Era, and they are not. What we have is not many documents. It's more or less 220 documents, circa 2,700 signs. As you can imagine, this is very little for deciphering. So the same holds for Cypro-Minoan, that holds for Cretan hieroglyphic. We have too little material, and even for Linear A, at the moment we have too little material for decipherment. The interesting thing is that Cypro-Minoan doesn't seem to have been used for administration, except we only have one ostracon, which seems to be an administrative document. We're not even sure that Cypro-Minoan, behind Cypro-Minoan, the Cypro-Minoan is used to express one language. It's probably maybe 2 or more languages, but it's difficult to say at the present state of knowledge. What we see is that 14 signs are in common with the Cypro-syllabic, which is the next script I'm going to talk about. So at least the only connection we can make is that Cypro-Minoan seems to have been connected to. I mean, Cypro-syllabic has a connection with Cypro-Minoan, seems to have developed from Cypro-Minoan. So, Cypro-syllabic or Cypriot syllabic is the only other Aegean script which has been deciphered. As you can see, was deciphered as early as 1874, and this happened because, fortunately, bilingual inscriptions were found, which had Greek and Phoenician inscriptions. I sometimes hear some noise, but
no, don't worry, Federico. Now I muted every guest, so
no, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you. Thank you. I just wonder if there was something wrong. So I was saying that thanks to these bilinguals, Cypro-syllabic was deciphered in 1874, and it turned out to be Greek. More precisely, it was used to write the Cypriot variant, the Cypriot dialect of Greek. We have 1,400 inscriptions, which are attested for a quite long period, between 900 and 200 before Christ, so well into Koine era, even to 100 before Christ, but that probably that looks probably like a heritage survival. The longest inscription, as you can see, is is of 346 words. It's quite long, and these texts have been mostly found on Cyprus, some few in Egypt, and some very few have been found elsewhere. There's two varieties of this script. A common one, and which is used in most areas, and then the one from Paphian. I mean, the one from the city of Paphos. And one difference between them is also that one is dextroverse, the other one is sinistroverse. Just one remark, final remark. Cyprosyllabic is not used only for Greek, but also, we will see at the end, for some other, we found some inscriptions with more or less 20, which are clearly not Greek, and these have been called Eteocypriots, the real Cypriots, for analogy with Eteominoans, which, according to Homer, among others, were the original inhabitant of Crete. So Eteocypriot, we don't know so much about this language, except that it is not Greek and not Phoenician, of course, and there we have 20 inscriptions in Cyprosyllabic. So this is a document in Cyprosyllabic. Just 2 words about the Phaistos disc. You probably know this artifact. It's quite famous. It's quite famous also in popular culture. It was found in 1908. It's dated to the early 17th century, and it's been an enigma since then. It's comprised of 242 signs and 45 unique characters, but there's no decipher at the moment, and unless surprising new material will be found, then there's no real hope for deciphering. The same goes for the Alkalokori axe, which was found a bit later, which is more or less contemporary with the disc, and seems to have some similarity with the script of the Phaistos disc. This is an image of the axe and of its script. So, just a quick sum up before we go to the digital resources. So you see, this is the list of the scripts of the Aegean script, and of the languages that they were used for. You see from the list of documents that apart from Cyprosyllabic and Mycenaean, and linear A, so the other script have a very little documents, are tested on very few documents. Just a mention about Eteo-Cretan, which I just mentioned before. It is this Eteo-Cretan is the language, undeciphered language of 6 unknown language of 6 documents found on Crete between 650 and 200 in the Greek alphabet, which, who knows, the hypothesis is that they might be connected to, there might be the language that they hide might be a descendant of the language, for example, the Cretan hieroglyphic. Okay, so after this overview, we go over to another overview, to the overview of digital and online resources for Aegean scripts. I will start with Mycenaean, which is the most important at the moment, and also the one which really has some digital resources. Why for the other scripts we have quite few resources. So I will now start with text databases. we have 3 text databases. We had nothing until 2011, but from 2011, and then, I mean, between 2011 and 2013, 3 databases appeared with the Mycenaean text online. The first one to appear was this, Minoan Linear A and Linear B on the website The Mediterranean. It's developed by Kim Raymore, which is an independent scholar. It is an amateur scholars website, but it's quite well done, and so one can see Linear B transcriptions of Linear B inscriptions. We can take one example. Hopefully it's going to work. Yes. So here you see a list of Mycenaean inscriptions. This is the inscription AE 750 from Knossos, listing to Kuroi, to Korvoi, to boys, and then some grain ratios. The website. I'm not going to dwell very much on the website. The website, The Mediterranean, has many inscriptions, but not all. And also, it's not the inscriptions. They don't preserve the original layout on the tablets, which is customary in Mycenology, given the importance for our understanding of the content of the layout. Then we have Liber, which came out in 2013, at the same year as Damos. Liber is a very well-made database from the Center for National Research the National Center for Research of Italian, and by the Institute for the Study of the Ancient Mediterranean in Rome. You have to register, but it's for free. So once you've registered, you can browse the database. Liber and Damos are quite similar in many respects. So one can both browse tablet and look, like in this case, we are now browsing through the tablets from Mycenae, and then we can see one of the tablets, the text, and then there's also pictures, images of the tablet, which can be zoomed in. This is the most useful website. The only shortcoming is that it has only 174, or I think more or less 180 tablets, because it only has the tablets from Mycenae, Midea, and Tiryns. But of course, when it will be finished, it will be a wonderful resource. They are now working with the tablets from Knossos. I will just leave it open, and we come back to this afterwards when we talk about maps and images. Yeah. Then we have Damos. What's good with Damos is that it contains all the published Mycenaean documents. So one can browse through this filter and, for example, decide to see tablets from Knossos, the GA series, which is a series where tablets, I don't know, and the writer 135, which is a series listing different documents dealing with spices. And one can, in this way, through Damos, have access to all the transliterations of the Mycenaean document. As you can see, you can filter your one can filter the document by site, tablet, writer, and some other and the classification criteria which Mycenologists use for the tablets, like series, subseries. The same can be done in Liber. Both Damos and Liber, finally, have a word search. And as you can see, if you look for the word that we saw before, kowo, or we look for kowa, which is then the classical kore, girl, Mycenaean korwa, we can then find all occurrences. Here you can see the line where the word kowa occurs, so we can find all the occurrences of the word. Then you can take a look at the whole text in this way, or open the text in another window, in case you want to print it out or save it. As you can see, Damos, and the same holds for Liber. If we go and see word search, allows for I don't remember if there's girl in this deposit. No, there's no girls in this deposit. But we can look, for example, for tablet listing grain. Liber, as you see, also allows then word searches, and both databases allow to search for exact matches or I mean, quite customary possibility researches, so looking for words that start with one syllabogram or ends with it, and both databases allow to use regular expressions to find the desired word. I will not go in here now into what regular expressions are, because you have seen them in other lessons. As you can see, Liber also allow to filter data for find spot and chronology, in addition to the data to the criteria that one can use in Damos. So this is another good characteristic of Liber. See the time? Yes. Wait, sorry, it was not. Okay. I will just mention the Damos because when it comes to linguistic and name entities annotation, so the only project which is dealing with that is Damos. I'm at the moment finishing they're probably going to be finished this summer or something, or around the autumn, the complete linguistic annotation of the text in Damos, and also name entities, that is place names and people's names will be annotated, and then this will be available also online. I may be there to show. This is a very temporary, how do you say? This is a prototype of the new version of Damos, which hopefully will be published sometimes before the summer. The most interesting thing is that there will be many more criteria that can be used to filter the data. So, for example, one can look for Aegean for seal impressions. So look for tablets which bear a given seal impression, or which have been found in a given year, or hold in a given museum and so on. But what is maybe more interesting is that it will be possible to have quite detailed word searches, and to have to look for more than one word at the same time. That means that one will be able to look for collocations. So words occurring in the same text or in the same line within a certain within a certain distance. So something similar, a bit more. I mean, something similar to what one can do in the TLG, for example, in the Thesaurus Linguae Graecae. Okay, I will not show you any. I will not try to do a research because I'm not sure about how the prototype is doing at the moment. So this is some kind of coming soon. Let's go further. Digital and online resources for Mycenaean, images and maps. Recently, very recently, I mean, in 2015, somewhat unofficially, but officially from this year, a Calibra has been published, which is the, let's go there, which is the archive of the Cambridge Linear B research group. And finally, so we can find online more or less all the tablets from Pylos, those in the photographs from 1963 from the University of Cincinnati. So they have been digitized in 2015, and now they are available. And that's quite easy to search in Calibra. You see, I digitized. I typed one, and then I can look in I can search through the metadata of the photographs, which not so many people, I guess, unless unless specialists look for. But I can look for tablet numbers. So here we find again the tablet number, the tablet from Pylos, AN1. Our tablet recording rowers, which I showed you before, so you can see where I took my picture. And everybody can also download a full size image. So these pictures are black and white, but they're pretty good resolution. So this is a big advance, since we almost didn't have any pictures of Linear B online before. What we had is that we had Calibra, we had Libe, which I already mentioned, which we go back to. No, sorry, we don't need to go back to. We have seen already the pictures. As I said, we have the pictures in Liber. We find the pictures from Mycenae, Tiryns, and Midea. And then we have Arachne. Arachne is do I see it? I forgot. Okay, we just Google it. Arachne is the database of the Deutsches Archäologisches Institut, and it doesn't have very many Linear B tablets. There's only some. We can do a very quick search. There are some one tablet and then some replicas, which are still anyway useful. But what is most interesting for us is that Arachne has seal impressions and seals which are used on the Mycenaean tablet. So when one looks for, one finds a Mycenaean tablet with a seal impression, this can be then seen in Arachne. of course, the ideal will be when these resources will be connected to each other, so that one can look at the tablet at the same time, look at the text of the tablet and at the image, which is what has been done in Liber for those 180 documents. But Damos, at Damos, we are working to that. We are trying in the new edition to incorporate the images which are freely available online, among them Calibra. So hopefully in the new edition of Damos, it would be possible to see the Mycenaean text with the picture from Calibra. At the moment, what is possible to do in Damos is to, of course, with the new version, it will be possible to look for all tablets containing a seal, and then look them up in Arachne. At the moment, what is possible to do is to let me see if I manage quickly. Is to what we have done, like a quick fix, we have put simply a link at the moment in Damos, so that if you're looking at the Mycenaean tablet with the seal, which is registered in Arachne, then we have the link to the seal impression. So this is a first steps towards connecting, linking resources. Finally, some images of linear B can also be found in the PDFs, which now are available to the general public at the Internet Archive, the PDF of the publication of Sir Arthur Evans, the archaeologist who discovered these scripts. They are available at the end, in the place at the end of Scripta Minoa 2. The other major event when it comes to Mycenaean images is the fact that the Ashmolean Museum in 2012, on the occasion of the 60th anniversary of the decipherment of Linear B, decided to digitize their Linear B collection, which is small but quite representative. It's 36, if I remember the correct number, tablets, and you can see them here. So it's very good pictures, it's color pictures, but what's more important is that they actually, what they did is not, they didn't only take color pictures, they used RTI technology, which yeah, I just go, sorry. They use RTI technology so that one can download, sorry. Yeah, this was the RTI viewer. Just a second, I need to go to the, no, I didn't, RTI viewer. So these pictures, so I was saying, were taken with the reflectance transformation imaging short form RTI. That means that tablets are photographed. Several pictures of the tablets are taken under different lights, and then a computer model of these pictures is made. These pictures put it together in one file. The result is that one can, when downloading, as you can see here, the RTI viewer, which is freely downloadable, and then inserting the web address which you saw at the, now I did this wrong. Yeah, so if you put these web addresses into the RTI viewer that you have downloaded, then you will be able to see to inspect the Mycenaean tablet by varying a virtual light. So you will be able in your computer to change the light angle and also change other light effects. And this is most useful especially because Mycenaean tablets don't photograph very well. So this is it's a big improvement for Mycenology, and also for the access to this text, the access for the general public. Of course, these are not many. These are not many compared to the 5,800 that we have, but there is a project now, the Pilot Tablets Digital Project, which is, and you can read at the link that I put on the slide, the blog. I mean, an article written by Dimitri Nakassis, which is one of the two scholars which is leading the project, and they are now digitizing all the Pilot tablets, that is more than 1,000, with RTI technology and 3D scanning. So they will quite soon be available for the general public with RTI and also 3D, which is a further addition. So these were the most important web resources for Mycenaean studies. Well, I have to add, sorry, there's also the, and now we go further to dictionaries, and I would say the last very important resource is the Diccionario Mycenicos Indexes. Diccionario Mycenico is the standard Mycenaean dictionary. As you might have understood, it's in Spanish. So one has to look up for Mycenaean words, and then there's a very broad treatment of each word in Spanish. So one has to know Spanish a bit to do Mycenology. The dictionary will be eventually published online, freely available, and this is there will be really a milestone in Mycenaean studies. But at the moment, what's online is the indexes, as we saw, and both a direct index of logograms and a direct index of logograms and an index of syllabograms. So if we keep looking for boys and girls. So if you look for words starting for ko, you have a list of all. Here you can find the list of all words starting with ko. You see fragments, which they are only ko, and all the occurrences in the different sites, in the different tablets, in the different sites. So these indexes are only online. So this is a very important resource because these indexes are not in the dictionary. They will be in the new edition, paper edition of the dictionary, but so you see, these are all the occurrences of korwa, girl. And most useful for Mycenologists, here you can find an reverse index. So if you're looking for endings, so if you're looking for morphology, this is a very useful index. Of course, you can do these kind of searches now also in Damos or in Liber for the tablets that they have. So in Damos and in Liber, you can look for words from the end. I will not go. There's also, when it comes to real dictionaries, I mean, dictionaries, dictionaries would give you a translation. There are some, the Mediterranean, the first website that we saw, has a little dictionary The same holds for the amateur website Paleolexicon, and also we have how to say, a start of the Mycenaean Wiktionary. I would say that of these, the best one is absolutely the Mediterranean, which also give information about not only a translation, but also the translation is documented through bibliography. The bibliography is not always up to date, but I mean, if one needs Mycenaean translations online, that's the only, at the moment, it's the only place where to find it. And maybe I can just quickly show it how it is. But of course, for a scholarly study, this doesn't hold. You need to look up in the dictionary of Aurora, in the dictionary Mycenico. So the dictionary is a bit hidden. You have to go to resources, linear B, sign groups, and then you can look for your kowa again, or whatever other word you are interested in. And then you will have a definition with some bibliography, and also link to Paleolexicon and Wiktionary. So these three resources are linked together. So at the moment, this is the best translation dictionary online. I will now go quickly through the resources, the last 5 minutes, but there's not so much for the other Cretan scripts. The most important resources are to be found, of course, I just mentioned first, also the first volume of Scripta Minoa 1, that is the volumes published after the discovery of the scripts by Sir Arthur Evans. This is also now freely available on the on Internet Archive. So there you can find pictures of all the inscriptions which were discovered by then of the other Aegean scripts, not linear B, which is in Scripta Minoa 2. I will mention together with this also what is probably the most important thing to know, I think, now about the Cretan script. It is that the online PDFs of the standard editions of the Cretan hieroglyphic, linear A, and the Paistos disc are now available online. They have been made available by the authors. So, and there you can find pictures and drawings of these scripts. The rest, when it comes to resources for Cretan script, all the rest has to do with the web pages of John Younger at the University of Kansas, which have published online, freely available in HTML format, the text of linear A, the text of Cretan hieroglyphic, and the text for the Paistos disc, and also the Archalochory acts, as you can see. These pages are most useful, and you can, there's a full treatment also of the scripts, a good treatment. The only thing is that, as you remember, these scripts are not deciphered, but the transcription of the linear A document, it is indeed transcribed, as I told you. It's transcribed according to linear B conventions. Also, these, as you can see, these transcriptions, they are normalized. That is, as you can see, they follow a scheme put up by the author. So they don't reproduce the layout the layout on the tablets. So these resources are very useful, but they have always to be used together with the standard editions, which fortunately are available now online. The Cypress script, there is unfortunately almost nothing about Cypress script online. We have, I mean, the whole corpus of Cypriot, Cyprus syllabic, that is the one which mostly is used to write the Cypriot Greek of first millennium before Common Era, is being compiled now by a team of international scholars, and it will appear as a volume in Inscriptiones Graecae. Hopefully, probably it will also appear in their online edition, and then we will have online text of the Cypriot scripts. Until then, the only online possibility to find text online is the Cyprios character, which is a numismatic database. So there you will only find inscriptions on coins. In addition, the website is a very nice. It's a very good website. The problem is that there's no way to look for. There's no way to make searches for inscribed document. So this is finally the Cypriot inscriptions database, of which you have a link here in my slide, is a database at the University of Texas at Austin, which with metadata about the Cypriot inscriptions. The problem is that, I mean, but no text. So there you can find metadata. The problem is that the website has been down for long now. I hope it will be restored soon. I conclude just with some few remarks about, I mean, you can find in the slides some links to bibliographies. The most important bibliography for online bibliography for Aegean studies is Nestor at the University of Cincinnati. And finally, the absolutely first digital resource that was created for Mycenaean was the mailing list Aegeanet, again by John Younger, and in 1993, and it is still the main mailing list for Aegean matters. So if you want to receive news or see discussion about Aegean matters, you should subscribe to Aegeanet. Studies in Mycenaean inscriptions and dialects, which is available at that link, again at the Center for at the program in Aegean scripts and prehistory at the University of Texas at Austin. Studies in Mycenaean inscriptions and dialects. It's a very, very good and complete, a very good bibliography, very thorough bibliography of Mycenaean text. The problem is that it has it's not finished. There's many years for which it has not been done, and in addition, only a few of these volumes have been digitized and are available at PASP. I then conclude on here. You can see I just put a slide with a further with the portals about the Aegean subjects, where you can find links to the resources which I've been talking about. And I would like to, especially Mnemon is a most useful website, because in addition to links for it's a review of online resources for not only for Aegean scripts but for all the ancient scripts of the Mediterranean. It's from the University of Pisa, the Scuola Normale di Pisa, but it also has a brief but thorough but good treatment of each writing system. So following these links, you can find more about the resources of which I talked about, and it also about fonts. I didn't mention fonts, but fonts have been developed for almost all the Aegean scripts except the Cypro-Minoan, if I'm not wrong, and you can find links to fonts from Namon. And there's also here, I forgot, I also a list of archives which are partially digitized. The archives of the scholars which worked with the decifration of Mycenaean, of Linear B. So here you have, and in the case of Evans, with all the scripts. So here you have links to the digitization projects of this archive, and some of them, like the Ventris papers, only have a PDF with a good overview of which papers they have, but the papers themselves they have not been digitized yet. While PASP, the Kober and Ventris archive, and the Emmett Bennett archive, they are on their way to being fully digitized. I think I will skip the new decipherment slide. If you want, you can ask me now if there is still time for some question. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Federico, thank you very much because it was really great. And at the beginning you said, well, I will show you something, but considering the complexity of the topic and the fact that we still need to decipher text, we have a lot in the digital environment. Of course, we are still at the beginning. We have different resources. You showed us different databases. The hope is to have of course, in the future, a connection among these databases and these resources, allowing, avoiding an overlap, but this is something that happens, of course, in digital projects. But, well, I think that there is, well, there are many resources. I don't know if there are questions in the audience. We're a bit over, but the topic is really very interesting. Well, first of all, thank you also for mentioning the fonts. I was going to ask you this, but you mentioned that, and we have a link in, because this is another interesting thing for us. So the possibility really to represent these scripts, which is still a problem also for Greek, because we can't represent everything for archaic Greek, for example. So there are still issues, as we know. I have a question for these last few minutes, because you mentioned your work about name entities. I know that this is work in progress, but can you tell us something about this work, the kind of name entities? Well, we know the kind of text, but the kind of name entities, and if you are going to develop a tag set, a sort of ontology for annotating name entities in linear B texts.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, no. yes, I can. Yes, we
okay.
Can.
Yes, as you might remember, I don't know if people, but the annotation is being done in a database. So Damos, what you see online, is taken from a MySQL database. So the annotation is of place names and personal names. Hopefully, this will be available in the next, because the linguistic annotation will not. It would not be possible to make it available in the next version of Damos that I quickly showed, but hopefully the people and places section will be available. An ontology, well, it's not a very complicated word, so there are some, I mean, I'm annotating groups of peoples, and I mean, there's place names, groups of peoples, individuals, and of course there's god names and so on. So there's some different categories that I'm using, and this would be searchable. Well, one thing that I'm saying is that, that I forgot to say actually is that at least for Pylos and Knossos, which then means the vast majority of the tablet, this would be more or less a prosopography. Because these data are going to be based on the publications, on two recent publications, which are the prosopography of Pylos and Knossos. So also with the not only named entity, but recognizing who is an individual and who are two people with same name. Yeah.
Okay, this is very interesting. So thank you for mentioning this, because of course we want to annotate the onomastics, but the prosopographies is the other important and fundamental thing. And yes, as you said, well, these texts are administrative texts, are not so complex from a certain point of view. That's why you said, okay, an ontology, we don't need a rich ontology in this sense, but of course the value of this work is the language, definitely. And then we mentioned many times in Sunoikis is the work on name entities recognition, and especially to annotate name entities in the original language, because this is something that we still miss. I'm of course speaking for example, for Greek and Latin text, but also in that case, even if we have many digitized texts, we still need authority lists in the original language. We have many lists in modern languages, but we still miss many names, especially for proper names, for place names, also in the inflected forms, and not only on the lemma. And then in this case, of course, if we can add also Mycenaean text, this is really extraordinary. So I think that your work is really very important in this sense, even if, as you say, and then given that you are a Mycenologist, you say, okay, we don't have many, we don't need a rich ontology, but still the work is important. No, I understand what you mean, of course.
It's also with ontology is that I am, I mean, this annotation is into a database, so it's not made, for example, through Epidoc. Yeah. So I am developing, of course, an ontology, but I can change it constantly, so I don't need to devise it necessarily before. I change it according to data. So of course, I'm developing an ontology, but it will be ready when we are finished with the annotation.
Of course, and then also because when you start annotating something, that you realize many things, so that's the good thing. And the prosopographical part is definitely a huge, interesting thing. So, well, thank you very much. Now our time is over, unfortunately, but really thank you, because this overview was excellent, very clear, so starting from the beginning, and we have your class outline, and then if we can add your slides really with many links, and so we have everything. Okay, so Federico, thank you. Next week we have another session. We will have a session about digital epigraphy, so in some way we go on with other texts, other classical texts, and so Federico, you introduced the first session about epigraphy. So see you next week, and thank you again, Federico, and thank the audience for this session. Okay, and good night, and bye-bye. Ciao.